think we know there is the impeached deputy president, there is now the impeached governor, Mr. Speaker. So I think that is what number 4, Mr. Speaker. On the issue of autonomy, I agree, but I don't agree, Mr. Speaker, on the issue of, there is the issue, just what, the third point, because I have only 4. The administrator of a county assembly shall obtain the written approval of the controller of budget. Mr. Speaker, I want to caution members of county assembly. We have seen, and yesterday we saw a county like Machakos, Mr. Speaker, and I'm happy the senator of Machakos is here. They were having close to 300 bank accounts, Mr. Speaker. 300 bank accounts. Yet when you go to controller budget, they want only few accounts, the CRF, to allow feasibility of COB. Because we are aware counties are doing the animal calling voiding payments, where the counties demand that they want to pay Ledama, but the money, when the money is released, they pay Senator Wambua, Mr. Speaker, just for purposes of illustration. I'm not saying they are being paid, just for purposes of illustration, Mr. Speaker. So that is how counties are perpetuating the issue of voiding of payments, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, I agree with this provision that the issue of controller of budget, before withdrawing money, they must be approved by controller of budget, Mr. Speaker. And the county assembly should stop opening bank accounts. When we challenge governors who appear before us, and I'm happy the chair of devolution is here, they are looking in financial bank accounts. You saw like Bungoma had over 300 commercial bank accounts. In Nandi, they have over 500 commercial bank accounts. Apart from CRF, apart from special purpose account, and apart from the facility improvement accounts under the Facility Improvements Act, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, we want to caution county assemblies, as we give you financial autonomy, we want them to maintain one account of county assemblies fund within the Central Bank of the Republic of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, the fourth point, I will disagree, Mr. Speaker, because the proper maintenance of buildings, Mr. Speaker, I can see you have given functionality and utilization of fund. One of them is to defray administrative expenses, which I agree. You know, Mr. Speaker, I see people, because now county assemblies appear before us for auditing as county public accounts. The business of county assemblies, last barrierman, it is recurrent. How you gauge the functionality of a county assembly is committee meetings, plenary, tabling of reports, motions, bills, and any other oversight role that is allocated by the law. So, Mr. Speaker, I agree with you. The only challenge, there are still counties that have not completed their county chambers, including my own county. Nandi County Assembly is yet to complete their chamber. We went to Isiolo, Mr. Speaker, that one is told, and a number of county assemblies I want to challenge. I think in Narok, I'm told the county executive is squatting on the land of the county assembly. So they need also to put their assets in order. We don't want the county executive of Narok to be squatting on the property of county assembly premises, Mr. Speaker. We need them to have evaluation role, to have full fixed asset that ensure the assets of county assembly are captured going into the future, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Chaligay, what is your point of order, Senator Zena?
Mr. Speaker, I was rising on a point of order for a long time. I've been waiting on the queue because I needed, I'm rising on standing order 105 on a statement of facts because Senator Cherargei has alleged that the governor of Narok was using public funds for the convoy that was seen the other day with several vehicles. Does he have facts that the vehicles were funded by public monies or they were private vehicles? So he needs to substantiate that fact. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I didn't even get what is the issue.
Senator Chaligay.
Mr. Speaker, so that I don't lose my Solomonic trail of thought, I'll request to substantiate tomorrow. So that I don't lose this serious meat. You know, those are diversionary tactics that are an essential for this matter that is before here. Mr. Speaker, finally, so that I allow my colleagues, so I agree largely with the financial autonomy. Let us give to county assemblies. I want to call upon MCAs, when you are given this financial autonomy, make sure you use it for the betterment of our running of county assemblies, do their oversight. Mr. Speaker, with those very, very, very many remarks to congratulate you and wish you well, and therefore support this bill with all, everything that I have, including my body organs, Mr. Speaker. I thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next is the minority whip, Senator Olekina Rendama.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the separation of powers, the principle of separation of powers requires the county assemblies to be independent. But currently, as we are in this country, I want to blame the framers of the Constitution because of the rush to be able to set up county governments. They never saw a problem when it comes to the issue of the executive controlling the assemblies. Today, Mr. Speaker, when the clerk or the speaker of the assembly want to be able to authorize payment for the administrative cost, payment for plenary seating, allowances, they depend entirely on the executive. And in most cases, the executive will decide whether to approve Form A or not. So this bill, this amendment to the PFM Act is quite timely, Mr. Speaker. And I want to support it fully because I want to see county assemblies being able to carry out their oversight authority without any dependency on the executive. Mr. Speaker, the bill as proposed by yourself as a senator of Meru really concludes this debate that started a very long time ago. This is a debate that started a long time ago from the previous two Senates, when the Senate was trying to figure out how do we deal with this issue. Yet the Constitution only sets up one CRF, County Revenue Fund. But I think because of the solonomic wisdom of yourself, Mr. Speaker, you have been able to look at the law, the PFM Act, and see an avenue that the county assemblies can also be able to have their service fund. Mr. Speaker, I've gone through the recommendation that you've put across. And although I support all these recommendations that you put across to be able to set up this county assembly service fund, I see one challenge, Mr. Speaker. And I'm not sure, Mr. Speaker, whether you've really seen the danger of the amendment of Section 109E, where you say the county treasurer shall at the beginning of every month and in any event not later than 15 days from the commencement of the month disperse monies to county assemblies fund for the expenditure of the following month. Mr. Speaker, I see us going back to the same problem. Going back to the same problem where the executive decides when to send this money. Mr. Speaker, I would like to beseech you that you do away with that provision and give the power directly to the control of budget. That whenever the control of budget see a requisition, because today, Mr. Speaker, when the clerk of Narok County wants to requisition money from the control of budget, the clerk of Narok County, whom is the one you've given all the powers to be the accounting officer, will have to rely on the CEO Finance or the CC Finance. Now, Mr. Speaker, if you still leave this provision in this amendment, don't you see that this will still continue being, a problem, a hindrance? So, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to beseech you to do away with this Section 109E completely. Mr. Speaker, let the accounting officer of the Assembly communicate directly to the control of budget. And while communicating to the control of budget, Mr. Speaker, we still see there's a problem with the control of budget approval. We have a representative of the control of budget in each of the 47 counties, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, before the county executive or the county assembly, in this case the clerk, requisition any money, it has to go through the representative of the control of budget for them to be able to approve that there is a vote had on that amount. But you know what happened realistically, Mr. Speaker? Immediately after this representative of the control of budget approves and say, control of budget, you may at least release this money, If you happen to go to the Office of the Controller of Budget, Mr. Speaker, you will see the CCM Finance. You will also see the clerk there trying to begin the process all over again. Why are we putting all these, bureaucrats or like hurdles to be able to get money? It's a very simple process. Everybody knows that each county has their ceiling. A county can have their ceiling of 1 billion shillings. Allow them to spend their money directly from their fund. Let them requisition, the controller of budget releases the money. Mr. Speaker, you've introduced a new provision here where you are now allowing the controller of budget viewing access. This is going to be very controversial, Mr. Speaker. We've been dealing with this issue where people are saying, no, we do not want. If you take time and speak to the Council of Governors, they'll tell you, no, we do not want the controller of budget to have access to our funds. We don't want her to view. But if you look at the Constitution and you read the Constitution clearly, I believe it's Article 228, subsection 5 or 6, where it says the controller of budget shall not withdraw money from the county revenue fund unless she's satisfied that that money that she's withdrawing is authorized by law. Then your proposition is justified. But of course, those who are spending do not want to be called to account to it. So, Mr. Speaker, I'll beseech you to remove this hindrance. There's no point of the assembly depending on the executive. I know the PFM Act as it stands right now, it puts the county treasurer as a CC finance. He's a sole county treasurer. But now that we are introducing this provision, and we are giving the clerk of the county assembly the powers to be able to administer these funds, why then should we not give him almost similar powers as the powers that the CCM Finance has as the head of that treasury? So, Mr. Speaker, I'd like you to relook at Section 109E, and I want to be able to make sure that, Mr. Speaker, we make these amendments during the Committee of the Whole. Because if you leave this, you will not have solved the problem. You've attempted to solve the problem by 109E2, when you say the disbursement referred to is subsection 1, shall be done in accordance with the schedule prepared by the county treasurer. Again, county treasurer. And submitted to the county assembly for approval together with the county appropriation bill under section 129(7). Mr. Speaker, we are trying to resolve a problem here, but we are not solving it. The county assemblies will continue having that problem. It depends on the relationship between the speaker, the clerk, and the county governor. He will just say, ignore. Let's not release the money. So, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to beseech you that you do away with 109E completely. Let's give these guys their full autonomy. Let them control their money. We already know CRA, this Senate, our Committee in Finance has deliberated on the ceiling of the county assemblies. The only thing that we may need to revisit, Mr. Speaker, is in terms of the growth of the ceiling of the county assemblies. Because if you look at the way the ceiling of the county assembly funds are growing, it is not proportional to the way the funds for the executive are growing. So we have to figure out and revisit that so that we don't find a place where county assemblies have got so much money, and they cannot really absorb it. Remember, Mr. Speaker, county assemblies do not have any big vote head on development. So these are recurrent expenditures. So I think we need to be practical to make sure that we have a system that works properly. Mr. Speaker, I would agree with my colleagues that the current situation is not a very conducive environment for the assemblies. And that is why you find it that whenever, even in our oversight committees, we invite the county assemblies to come and appear before us. County assemblies will just tell you, we have a problem. We may not even be able to afford to pay for fuel, to fuel our vehicles to come and attend the sessions because the executive have not yet released our funds. So, Mr. Speaker, I believe this is something which is going to help all the 47 counties and as well as help devolution. You know, there is this business that governors still think that they are the fathers of the MCS. You'll find the governor saying that my MCS, they're not your MCS. The MCS are elected by the people to oversight the county governor. So I think it is important that we clarify those two. As I conclude, Mr. Speaker, I believe I've summarized my points clearly to the fact that, one, it is important that we do away with that double prong of, I think it's accountability. It's not really accountability, but really examination of documents. The controller of budget must agree that if she has a representative in the 47 counties, if the representative has gone through all the documentation, let's not waste time allowing people to travel from counties to come in and camp in her office. If she has a problem, let us deal with an electronic system. Mr. Speaker, the next, and I believe the next amendment, and I was hoping that you would be able to piggyback on this one, would be one of establishing an end-to-end IFMI system to avoid this issue where you require the CCM of finance, CEO of finance, to be able to give double authority for the funds to be released. This is why you're finding a lot of people are complaining that there's so many pending bills. Because when the money is released by the controller of budget, the people who are supposed to be paid are not the ones who are paid, the funds are diverted. Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, I wanted to request, because this is the bill sponsored by the Senator of Meru County, that Section 119A that you are requesting, you are now introducing, where you say the controller of budget shall have viewer rights access to all bank accounts maintained by the county executive, the county assembly, and all other county government entities. Mr. Speaker, I don't know whether it will be overstretching to further require and add 119B to require that when payments are being made out, that the controller of budget shall have some form of viewer rights to the people who are being paid that money, to ensure that the accounts, or rather, Mr. Speaker, when the county executive or the county clerk are requesting to pay vendors, that they shall include the vendor account numbers to the requisition. And in that requisition, when the money has been sent out, we should require the banks to send a confirmation that the money which was authorized by the controller of budget has been sent to the supplier. That, Mr. Speaker, will end this business of pending bills. That, Mr. Speaker, will end this business of the diversion of funds. Because diversion of funds, Mr. Speaker, is a cancer that if we don't deal with right now and cut it out completely, we will continue having huge pending bills. People will continue killing themselves because the counties have not paid them. When we have a crisis in a stagnating economy like this one right now, most businesses out there will continue suffering. So, Mr. Speaker, I fully support this, and I will be sitting down with you, Mr. Speaker, so that at the Committee of the Whole, we include those two new amendments. We do away with Section 119 that you've introduced. 119E, let us allow county assemblies to be able to fully manage their funds. This will even help the MCAs be able to go out there and carry out their oversight function, because they will no longer complain that they have not been given their mileage, that they have not been given their sitting allowance, because the executive has not yet released money to the county assembly clerk. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
the finance committee, because Senator Mutila is next. She will tell us how to cure that 109E, because the committee feels it shouldn't be.
No, it's your bill, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mutila, you are next.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And yes, truly, as the Committee of Finance, we were able to deliberate on your bill. And allow me to start really by thanking you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, for this wonderful bill that at least as Senate, we are going to leave a legacy as far as our MCAs are concerned. These are our leaders that represent us at the lowest level, at the machinani level, leaders that this Senate highly respects very much our MCAs, Mr. Speaker. And that is why we really take this bill very dear to us. And I would wish my very good friend, Senator of Narok County, would be able to accord me full hearing, as I did, so that when I get to clause 109E, I can be able to shed some light on what us as the committee deliberated and what we settled, why we settled for the clause as it is, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, allow me to, is really requesting I go to my comments on clause 109 and, sorry, it's, yes, 109, I'm very keen. Minority leader, 109E, yes, says that the county treasurer shall at the beginning of every month, and in any event not later than date 15th, from the commencement of the fund, blah, 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 and all that, ensure that the funds are dispersed. That was taking care of timely disbursement. But I know the concern that is in place because we are trying to cure that autonomy for the MCAs would be in place. It seems like the county treasurer still sort of has final powers. But this is the reason, Mr. Speaker. According to the PFM Act, what how we analyzed and looked at was that we cannot allow more than 1 or 2 people to be able to have access to the CRF account. And that was the reason why, as a committee, we really deliberated on these issues, because we looked at it from how my colleague has also tried to look at it and thought, then will there be autonomy, or still there will be so much dependency? But light was shed, and was shed in the sense that it will not be so safe, it will not be so prudent or wise to allow many signatories for this CRF account. And since the funds will be transferred now to the county service fund that we are creating, what we are trying to ensure is that the county treasurer will adhere to the timeline, because already a schedule will be in place, so that he or she can be able to ensure timely remittance now to this service fund account, so that the CRF account does not have so many officers or accounting officers who are accessing this particular account. Mr. Speaker, for none other than the safety of ensuring that we minimize the number of signatories who are supposed to be able to access this account. That was the view, but because we are having, contributions, deliberations, and everyone's opinion is very much highly respected and welcomed, we can continue engaging further. And because we have very competent legal personnel who guide us, and especially in our committee, we have none other than Lucy Radoli, who really will engage deeply, because this was one of the greatest concerns. So not that we did not, we overlooked it. We were very keen on this particular issue, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I'm listening to my dear sister trying to explain the reasoning behind still maintaining the hindrance of the autonomy of the assemblies. And I'm just trying to understand, and I would like her to clarify, why is it that they did not look at the provision on the PFM Act that sets up the CCM Finance as the county treasurer, vis-a-vis Article 228, subsection 5, which talks about the control of budget, having the powers to be able to release the money. And in this case, right now, when the clerk of the assembly requires money to be able to offset the expenditures, they will write to the CCM Finance. The CCM Finance then writes to the control of budget and asks the control of budget to release money to the county assembly. But when the money is released to the county assembly, that money does not normally go to the assembly. So, because I'm trying to figure out, as we are debating on this issue, could the distinguished senator clarify why was it not easy for the committee to then further amend the section that puts in the CCM Finance as the main treasurer for the county? Because I remember, and I was giving her the history behind this. When devolution started, Mr. Speaker, there was only one audit account, which was the county government of, let's say, Narok County. But subsequent, after the assemblies went through this hurdle, then it was divided into two, which now it was made the Auditor General would audit the executive and audit the assembly. So there are two separate accounts. And the clerk, even before devolution, Mr. Speaker, the clerk of the county council were the accounting officers. So I'm just trying to understand that if the distinguished senator can give that clarity, so that we can end with this back and forth, so that when we are deliberating on this matter to cast a vote, we can actually be able to cure this problem once and for all. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I've had my colleague, and I know this bill is your bill and you're very passionate about it, which is allowed, of course. And so I would still say that that is our view in terms of how we thought about it, it being that this is a consolidated fund. So the wisdom was simply just to avoid forwarding back so many signatories. I'll leave it at that at this particular moment, Mr. Speaker. And look at the other clauses that the bill has looked into. One of it also being clause 3, Mr. Speaker, that the clerk of the assembly shall be the administrator. And Mr. Speaker, the clerk of the assembly, like the clerk of the Senate, is the one who's in direct communication with the senators, and in the case of the county assembly, then the clerk of the county assembly is also the administrator. And for him to ensure, or her to ensure, that there is a smooth flow of the workings of the members of the county assembly, he stands best to administer this particular fund. Mr. Speaker, looking at also clause 5, which talks about that the administrator of the county assembly shall arrange for the county assembly fund to be kept in the Central Bank of Kenya in an account to be known as the county assembly fund account. Mr. Speaker, when I sit where I sit as a member of County Investment Special Fund, and when we're doing audit and doing oversight, we really come across issues of different bank accounts that have been opened by different accounting officers in the different funds that the counties are allowed to be able to open. So with this clause 5.8, communicating and talking about that the account shall be kept within central bank, it minimizes the issues that we've seen happening in the counties, because it is the same counties that do open these particular accounts, Mr. Speaker. And so avoidance of these so many accounts is very, very important. So many accounts, Mr. Speaker, then brings challenge during the oversight process. And so it is key to note that minimal accounts are required. Part B talks about that ensure that all monies authorized by the county for the public purpose is paid from the account without undue withdrawal. Mr. Speaker, this will have to go up to the level of the National Treasury. National Treasury, and I'm happy we have a new minister, and since he's also been a member of this parliament, is going to ensure that timely disbursements of the funds to the counties will be done on time. That delay of the funds has really caused a lot of problems. Problems that are existing today, problems for the pending bills. At the same time, problems for our great working leaders, the members of the county assembly. Our leaders at the county level, our MCAs to be specific, at times go for almost 3 months without their salaries. And mark you, Mr. Speaker, these are the leaders who are in direct communication with our people at the ground level. Unlike us, who come to Nairobi and who transact our business because our offices are within Nairobi and we go to Mashinani during the weekend, it is different for the MCAs who in each and every day they are meeting with the people, they're interacting with the people, and the people are also sharing the needs. If an MCA would go without salary for 2 to 3 months, for Christ's sake, it becomes very hectic. So I would still want to urge, as we ensure that timely disbursement of these funds to the county, this fund, the county assembly fund account should be timely. It starts at the treasury level. So the CS, the new CS should ensure, because this is what he promised when he came to this house, and really affirm that timely disbursements will be done and will be done on time, Mr. Speaker. Otherwise, without this, then we will be killing devolution. Undermining devolution is the last thing that Senate wants to embark on, and so timely disbursements will always be very key, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, looking at 109B, the fund shall be used to defray administrative services, also acquisition of maintenance of buildings, grounds, and other assets. Mr. Speaker, in the Committee of Finance, we have a room whereby when the MCAs appear before our committee requesting for increment of their ceilings, this is normally brought about by the projects that they do have, Mr. Speaker. And in most cases, we've looked at those issues and accorded the increment of the ceilings. Mr. Speaker, one thing to note is that we've had counties like northeastern counties, whereby they would talk about the challenges that they go through for them to do the oversight. And even as senators, before we do the oversight for the counties, the mandate is within the MCAs themselves. But if they do not have enough facilitation and they have all these challenges, mobility and all that, it becomes really a hurdle for them to be able to achieve their mandate, which is oversight, the basic mandate. So when this fund will be in place, Mr. Speaker, the County Assembly Fund, it will give a smooth running for them to be able to conduct their oversight smoothly, for them to be able to conduct their training capacities as required smoothly, without challenges, without continuing to beg the same employers, that is the CEC Finance, who has been vetted by the same MCAs, accorded the same responsibility by the same MCAs, and they have to go back and beg, you know, for facilitation, beg for support, financial support, for them to be able to undertake their roles, Mr. Speaker. So with this fund, it will give them, you know, maximum output. I've had yesterday when we were deliberating the bill for Senator Crisol on the MCA's nominations, concerns were a bit raised in terms of the quality, competency, and all that. But Mr. Speaker, when this fund will be in place, it will be able to empower MCAs to be able to understand and how to partake their roles, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, I would want to conclude on the issue of the 119A. That says that the control of budget shall have viewer rights access to all the bank accounts maintained by the county executive, the county assembly, and all other county government entities. Mr. Speaker, it is the high time that the control of budget, Madam Margaret Nyakango, to set in all the 47 counties, to set and establish departments or offices for the subsidiary offices for the control of budget, so that there is smooth flow of these audit processes and all the work that pertains the Office of the Controller of Budget. Because as we speak, it's within the city, it is within Nairobi. So you find that it becomes a challenge. Like you see, look at the Office of the Auditor General. We have officers that have been distributed across all the regions, across all the counties, and they are able to maximally partake their roles and do maximum audit, because during our audit process, we always meet with them, representing different regions, counties, and their work is able to flow. But the control of budget team is still narrowed. There must be diversification, there must be maximum officers that have been deployed to the different counties so that they are able to ensure the role of the control of budget is maximally achieved, Mr. Speaker. And with those and many few remarks, I look forward that this bill will quickly, and before even we go to the long recess, that we'll have concluded on it and passed on it, and probably our colleague at the National Assembly will also be able to fast-track this particular bill so that we support our MCAs, and any other issues that are within the MCAs will ensure we maximally support them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to, first of all, congratulate you for this County Public Finance Law Amendment Bill 2023, because this is very much overdue, Mr. Speaker. I remember there are two more recommendations about MCAs being given finance autonomy. When I was in BBI, we had also recommended that they be given a ward fund directly to them without passing through the governors. Also, the NADCO report has also recommended that they be given a fund directly so that they can be able to work. Mr. Speaker, I'm talking as a senator of Machakos. I've seen these MCAs work with a lot of trouble because they have to sing the songs of the governors. And if they don't sing the song of the governors, then their wards will not be developed, which means them risking their coming back again for re-election. Mr. Speaker, they have to move around with the governors even when they have other things to do, because if they don't, then they are said that they are against the governors. I've come across, Mr. Speaker, some incidences where if an MCA does a statement like we do statements here, or a motion, then they are told that they are fighting the governors. So those bills, those statements are just refused, they are not signed, and they cannot move forward. And the more reason why they cannot even be able to do their oversight work, Mr. Speaker, because they have just to sing the song of the governors. And if they see anything wrong, they cannot even voice it. Why? Because they will be said that they are fighting the governors, and their wards will not be developed. So this fund will really empower the MCRs so that they can be able to do development at their ward levels, and they can also now be able to oversight the governors properly, because they'll be independent with their own fund, where they are not only relying with the governor. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that I've also seen, Mr. Speaker, can you protect me from Senator, he's talking loudly, he's distracting me. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I've seen ward administrators and ward coordinators of the governors launching projects at the ward level when the MCI is not even, does not even know that there is a project being launched in his own county. And that is the person who has been elected by the people to represent them. And they are the people who know what their people want at the ward level. Mr. Speaker, MCIs wake up every morning to find people at their doorsteps, coming for school fees, coming for for coming for, you know, medical bills, money, and many other issues. They are the people we depend on in totality at the ward level. And so if they are given this finance autonomy, it will be very good for them and even for all of us. And Mr. Speaker, if all of them, the 1,450 MCRs get funds to be able to do development at their wards, Mr. Speaker, devolution will make a big, big difference, because now they'll do a lot of developments at every ward level without, you know, waiting until the governor have mercy on them and do this project or refuse to do that project. And Mr. Speaker, if you go to the wards, you will find, especially where the governors are not working together with the MCRs, you will find that some people in their wards, they don't have even roads, they have no water, they have nothing, they are just crying and waiting for when maybe God have mercy on them. But I want to thank God for this Senate, because if this bill is implemented, this amendment is implemented, then the MCRs will have money to be able to work, and they'll work peacefully, and they'll have independence also to be able to do what is right at the right time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I support.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to thank you very much for this opportunity that you've given to me. I also thank you for coming up with this important bill, which tries to give powers to counties, more so the county assemblies. Honorable Speaker, this is how we really need to empower devolution. I want to thank you so much, and on the onset, I want to support this bill because it brings very important aspects, particularly on the county assembly, where they have been dominated by the executive in the counties. Honorable Speaker, the county assemblies have almost everything. They have the autonomy. They have full-fledged finance departments. County assemblies have officers who are very much trained, competent, knowledgeable, qualified to operate finance departments in their assemblies. County assemblies have units in procurement. County assemblies are also able to have that link of IFMIS. Honorable Speaker, I believe also county assemblies are also connected to payroll, IPPD. This means, Honorable Speaker, if this bill is approved by this Senate and therefore ratified by the National Assembly, we will see a very competent county assembly that has an autonomy to work without any pressure of the executive. Honorable Speaker, the Auditor General will have a chance to audit county assemblies on what they have done. And the control of budget will transfer funds to the right account, and we will be sure as the Senate that the county assembly are dispensing money that ought to be theirs with no diversion of funds. Honorable Speaker, I want to say that there were a few comments and contributions from members on clause 109E. Yes, I believe this is a very contentious clause. We really need to look at it, because at the end of it all, we want to have an autonomy of the county assembly, so that we don't want to see a scenario where the executive again will have another small chance to control funds. We want to have a direct transfer of funds from the national treasury, from the control of budget, to the county assembly without passing again to the county assembly, county treasury. So I think that is something that we really need to look at it. But all the same, this will try to solve so many problems. Honorable Speaker, the issue of pending bills in the executive, again in the county assembly, is a problem. It's something that has been a big problem. And this bill will try to solve a number of issues, Honorable Speaker, in the county assembly and in the county executive. So, Honorable Speaker, as we look at these clauses clearly, we will see the light, the light at the tunnel. We will see something that will resolve problems of many business people who have been having problems of doing business in counties, and the county government are unable to pay them because of diversion of funds. They do requisitions to the county, to the control of budget, Honorable Speaker, and when the money hits to the account, the priority becomes a different scenario. I believe Senator Ledama has tried to introduce a certain clause, and I am also in support on the same, that we want to see if the control of budget, if we can introduce a clause where the control of budget will also have that right to introduce a certain portal where when the executive or the county assembly requisition the money, there will be another following. We will follow up. They will be able to follow up, so that there is the requisition again, the next requisition, they're able to see if that money has gone to the right supplier or a person, to the right person, or to the right vote. Honorable Speaker, I think this is a very important bill. I want to believe that the county assemblies has the capacity in human resource to handle these issues, to handle their finances without passing through the county executive. Honorable Speaker, our PAC committees, public accounts committees in the Senate, will also be able to track and find out if the county assemblies are using their money at the right voting. So, Honorable Speaker, I want to stop there, but I want to support this, and thank you so much for bringing up this important bill. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Let's start with Senator Mwaruma we test the 5 minutes.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa hii fursa ili kuchangia huu mjadala ambao ni mjadala muhimu sana wa kupatia mabunge ya kaunti uhuru wao. Kumekuwa na huu mjadala ya kwamba mabunge hayawezi kutimiza majukumu yao ambayo ni uangalizi, kutunga sheria na uwakilishaji vizuri kwa sababu hawana ile autonomy ama hawana uhuru wao. Mheshimiwa Spika, nakushukuru kwa sababu ya hekima yako na ubunifu wako wa utunzi wa sheria na kuona ya kwamba tukibadilisha hii sheria ya Public Finance Management Act, basi mabunge ya county yanaweza kupata uhuru wao. Mheshimiwa Spika, pesa nyingi zinaenda kwa magatuzi, na bila kuwa na mabunge ya magatuzi ambayo yanafanya kazi vizuri, basi zile pesa nyingi zinapotea na wananchi kule nyanjani hawapati maendeleo ipasavyo. Mheshimiwa Spika, mwaka wa 2010 tulijipatia katiba ambayo ilileta ugatuzi, na ugatuzi ilimaanisha kwamba pesa itoke Nairobi na iende mashinani. Lakini tumeona ya kwamba magavana wamenyanyasa ama wameendelea kunyanyasa mabunge ya county. Kwa mfano, mwaka wa 2021 nilikuwa katika kamati ya uhasibu ya Senate. Mabunge mengine bado yalikuwa hayalipi mishahara moja kwa moja, walikuwa nalipwa na executive. Mheshimiwa Spika, pia kwa mabunge yetu kupata pesa zao, inabidi mpaka waziri wa fedha aandikie control of budget ili awachilie zile pesa. Na mabunge yetu yameendelea kupata shida ya kifedha ama kupata fedha ili kufadhili miradi yao na mipango yao. Mheshimiwa Spika, kuna jambo pia lilitokea mwaka 2021 hapo ya kwamba unapata bunge limetengeneza makaratasi yake ya pending bills, lakini upande wa serikali ama waziri wa fedha wa executive hawajatengeneza makaratasi yao ya kuregesha kwa control of budget ili pesa irudi. So unapata ya kwamba mabunge ya county yanachelewa kupata pesa kwa sababu wanacheleweshwa na ule upande wa serikali ama executive, ambapo kama wangekuwa na huo uhuru wao, basi pesa zao hazingechelewa kufika kwa mabunge ya county. Mheshimiwa Spika, jambo lingine ambalo linafaa kutokea ama litasaidia kupeana uhuru wa county assemblies ni kwamba saa zingine pesa zinachelewa kuingia kwa county ama hazina ya kitaifa inachelewa kutoa pesa, na inabidi county zikope pesa kutoka kwa mabenki. Sasa county assemblies ama mabunge yetu ya county hayajapewa uhuru wa kukopa kutoka kwa mabenki ili kulipa wafanyikazi wao bila kupitia kwa waziri wa fedha. Lakini Mheshimiwa Spika, county assemblies zikishapata uhuru wao, wakati hazina ya kitaifa imechelewa kutoa pesa, basi mabunge ya county yatakuwa na huo uwezo wa kukopa pesa moja kwa moja kutoka kwa mabenki ili kulipa mshahara yao na kuendelea na kazi zao. Mheshimiwa Spika, nimekuwa naongea kila wakati na ninasema kuna mambo mawili yanatakikana kufanyika ili mabunge ya county yafanye kazi vizuri. Ya kwanza ni wawe na hazina yao ndogo, na katika huu mswada wako Mheshimiwa Spika umesema kando na hazina ya county ama CRF account, kuwe na hazina ndogo ya assembly ambayo itawekewa pesa ili assembly zitumie pesa yao moja kwa moja. Lakini Mheshimiwa Spika, hata wakiwa na ile pesa kwa assembly, bado gavana akiamua kutopeana maendeleo kwa ward, anaweza kataa bado kupeana maendeleo katika ward. Kwa hivyo hata jambo lingine tukishapitisha huu mswada, ule mswada mwingine ambao lazima tuangalie kwa ukaribu ni ule mswada wa fedha za ward ama ward equalization fund ama ward fund. Ili pesa ikifika kwa magatuzi, kila ward igawanyiwe pesa zake na wapate kufanya maendeleo yao. Vile ilivyo saizi Mheshimiwa Spika, ni kwamba gavana anaweza amua kama mwakilishi ward ama MCA haimbi wimbo wake, basi haezi peleka maendeleo kwa hiyo ward, ili wananchi wakasirike na yeye na wamnyime kura katika uchaguzi unaofuatia. Kwa hivyo haya mambo mawili yakishafanyika, kupatia county assemblies uhuru wao, na pia ile mswada mwingine ambao katika hii nyumba wa kupatia uhuru ama kufanya ward development fund, utapelekea wajumbe wetu kufanya kazi vizuri zaidi. Mheshimiwa Spika, hii 109E, kuna msemaji amesema ya kwamba si vizuri kuachia waziri bado atoe pesa katika hazina ya kaunti. Lakini natofautiana na yeye kidogo, kwa sababu katika hazina ya kitaifa fedha ndiye anayepiga sahihi ili pesa zitoke na ziende kwa mahakama, ziende kwa bunge na ziende kwa taasisi mbalimbali. Kwa hivyo pia kule kwa hazina ya assembly hazina ya county ama CRF account, ni vizuri waziri pia apewe nafasi atoe pesa nyingine iende kwa county assembly na pesa nyingine iende kwa kwa executive na nyingine iende kwa zile fund tofauti, Mheshimiwa Speaker. Kwa hivyo naunga mkono moja kwa moja huu mswada wa kuhakikisha kwamba mabunge yetu ya county yamepatiwa nguvu za kufanya kazi. La mwisho kabisa,
Mtamwaruma, zile dakika zako 5 zimefika nane.
Zimeyoma Mheshimiwa Speaker.
Zimefika nane.
Wacha nimalizie kwa kusema ya kwamba hata wakati tunapatia wajumbe ile ward fund, ni vyema tuwe na ile mchakato wa kusema kwamba magavana ndio wanaofanya miradi na MCAs kazi yao ni uangalizi. Maanake saizi hakuna tofauti ya MCA na waziri, unapata MCAs wao pia wanafanya miradi. Ni vile katika bunge la kitaifa unapata wabunge wanafanya miradi ya CDF moja kwa moja. Sasa katika ile separation of powers, Mheshimiwa Speaker, inatakana pia wajumbe wafanye kazi yao ya oversight, ili gavana naye afanye kazi yake ya utekelezaji wa miradi. Mheshimiwa Speaker, kwa sababu ya muda na wengine wanataka kuongea, naomba kuachia hapo na kuunga mkono mswada. Asante Mheshimiwa Speaker.
Senator Karungo Wadangwa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. From the onset, I was trying to see what the bill is trying to cure. And Mr. Speaker, you know I'm a former MCA, so at least I understand, having experienced some of these problems we are supposed to cure. When you're bringing the autonomy or the independence of the county assembly, the problem is not spending. The problem is how they get the money to the assembly's account, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when we create the fund, which of course was there under the County Assembly Services Act, and it has never been utilized before, but if we create the fund, Mr. Speaker, how will this fund be getting their monies, Mr. Speaker? Because the issue is not the assembly utilizing the money, is how the money comes to the fund. Initially, or what happens today, if the assembly wants their money, they do a requisition to the county treasury, who is a CEC of finance in a county. Then the CEC of that county will forward that requisition to the COB for that money to come to the county assembly. Now, here is the catch. When they write to the CEC or the chief finance officer, they delay from forwarding the same to the COB, Mr. Speaker. So that is the problem right there. If we do not cure that part, then even this one, Mr. Speaker, will also have the same problem. Because they'll be writing to the Treasury is not forwarding to the COB. And then after that, once the COB brings money to the county assembly and takes it to the fund, again we are asking COB to approve the use of these funds, Mr. Speaker. That is wrong. The autonomy or the independence we are giving the county assembly, we are now giving it to COB, Mr. Speaker. So I think I will be bringing an amendment to make sure that we give the county clerk the power to do requisition direct to COB, not necessarily through the county treasury. Because the county treasury, Mr. Speaker, they have already done the budget. Why do we tell the county assembly to write to the county CEC asking for money, yet they already know how much money they passed in their budget? They should write directly to COB so that that money now can be sent to the fund. Mr. Speaker, if we do that, now we cure what you are trying to achieve with this bill. And then after we bring the money to the county assembly fund, then we remove COB again from them approving every spending, Mr. Speaker. Why am I saying that? I believe this county assembly fund is almost the same as bursary fund, is almost the same emergency fund, hospital fund, whereby once you put the money in that fund, the person who is given the authority to spend is the administrator, and the administrator is the clerk, and the clerk is going to be giving quarterly reports on how they spend the money for the county assembly, Mr. Speaker. So I believe I'll be bringing that amendment to make this law now complete, because you have really captured most of the things that the county assembly members have been crying about. But now once we give the clerk the autonomy of writing to the COB directly, then we complete the circuit, Mr. Speaker. I thank you and I support.
Thank you very much. I wanted to give some further guidance that I can see I have several senators, 1, 2, 3, 4, and Tabitha fifth. We have a very few minutes. I wanted to give the minority Rinda, and then the rest can speak tomorrow and utilize the 20 minutes that you have. So minority Rinda. Point of order to your minority, to your Rinda.
Speaker, I think there is a serious problem with this system, because I came here at 2:30 and I pressed my button. Then I realized later that it was not reflecting there. It is not fair that a member comes in here, sits all this time, and he cannot be given a chance to speak because of the system.
Senator,
You need to do something about this
The
system.
issue is the system, you remember? You know, we have discussed about this system for quite some time. Maybe the management is looking into it so that they can change this system completely. So sorry for that, but you have an opportunity next time. So, minority Rinda?
Speaker, kwa kunipa nafasi hii mimi pia kuweza kuchangia. Mstahiki Speaker, kitu cha kwanza nataka kutoa kongole kwako wewe, kwa sababu wewe ndio uliyefananua ama huu mswada wa sheria za pesa ya umma unaokwenda katika county. Na sheria hii ya 23, mimi naona kwamba hii sheria imekuja 23 na tuko 24. Mheshimiwa Speaker, ingekuwa uliketia 22, ingekuwa ilipatia mwelekeo mzuri, lakini hatujachelewa. Barabara iko wazi na tutaendelea hivyo hivyo. Kitu cha kwanza, Bwana Speaker, hii sheria hizi zitaweza kusaidia bunge sana. Bwana Speaker, tunaona kwamba mara nyingi wale wahudumu, wale wabunge wa mabunge yetu ya county zote 47, ma MCAs, mara nyingi wao ndio wanakuwa wa kwanza kukumbana na zile shida za wananchi. Wakienda kwao nyumbani, wakienda maofisini kwao, wakiwapata barabarani, wao ndio wanakuwa watu wa kwanza kuweza kutekeleza zile shida. Bwana Speaker, ni kibarua kigumu sana kuona kwamba hata mapato MCAs pia ni madogo. Kwa hiyo kuzoroteshwa ama kutokwenda kwa zile pesa katika kaunti wakati unaotakana ama kwa muda unaowezekana, huwa mara nyingi kunakuwa na shida kwa sababu wale wanakuwa hawana la kufanya. Bwana Spika, mimi naona vizuri sana kwamba mswada kama huu umeweza kupatikana hivi leo. Utaweza kufanya mabunge yetu ya kaunti sasa kuwa huru. Na Bwana Spika, utaona kwamba mabunge yakiwa huru, pia utaona mijadala mingi itakayoletwa katika yale mabunge yetu ya kaunti yatakuwa mijadala ambayo itakuwa na maana sana, kwa sababu mara nyingi utapata ya kwamba wale viongozi ama waheshimiwa MCAs mara nyingi wanaweza kuwa wanaogopa kuongea ama hawawezi kuongea kwa sababu wanafikiria kwamba wakiongea hivi ama wakiongea vile kunaweza kuchukuliwa na hatua na serikali zao za kaunti. Lakini mimi nataka kuwapatia imani ya kwamba sasa sheria hivi karibuni inaweza kupatikana ya kwamba itakuwa wana uwezo kuwa huru kuongea vile wanavyofikiria ama vile wanavyotaka, na wakiona kama kuna makosa ama wanaweza kukosoa hata ikiwa kuna makosa. Bwana Spika, kwa kumalizia, Bwana Spika, tunaona kwamba kitita cha senti kama hichi ambacho kitakwenda katika kaunti, tumefanya vizuri sana kumweka yule kiongozi ama mkurugenzi wa hii budget, yule ambayo sisi tunamuita kama controller of budget, kwamba yeye atakuwa na uwezo wa kukagua pesa zote za benki ama pesa zote ambazo zitakuwa ndani ya bunge la kaunti, na kwamba anaweza kuona ya kwamba kama kutakuwa na makosa anaweza kusema, ama kama kutakuwa na kitu chochote ambacho hakiendi usawa anaweza kusema. Bwana Spika, pesa kama hizi ni pesa ambazo zitakuwa zinasaidia watu katika serikali zao za mashinani, na pesa hizi zitataka uangalizi wa kina kuona ya kwamba kila pesa inayotumika kulingana na sheria, na pia vile vile inaangaliwa na yule mkurugenzi ama controller wa hizi budget. Kwa hiyo mimi naona kwamba sheria kama hiyo ikiwa iko, hilo litakuwa ni jambo la kufaa zaidi. Nataka kukomea hapo Bwana Spika, nikisema asante sana kwa kunipa nafasi hii.
Asante kiongozi wa wachache. Senator Veronica Waheti.
Honorable Speaker, let me first thank you for bringing this bill. It is most timely and much needed, and I believe it has been delayed. It should have even come earlier, because for the longest time I have met with the members of county assembly, and from many, many counties they have decried how difficult it is for them to perform their function of oversight because of the way they have to keep begging governors to be able to be funded for activities and to balance their function of oversight vis-a-vis the need for them to be supported by the So this amendment, Honorable Speaker, will set our county assemblies free. It will set them free from being tagged to the governors whom they are supposed to oversight, Honorable Speaker. And it will set Kenyans free from having to watch devolved funds being used in a very corrupt manner, and people watching helplessly, including the first line of defense. So it definitely speaks into better management, and it delivers autonomy to the operations of county assemblies from the executive within the counties, Honorable Speaker. I have looked at the amendments proposed under section 1, 2, 3, and it definitely introduces the fund, the concept of the fund, or the structure of the fund. And I like what is contained in the section 6 of the amendment bill, the one that amends section 109A, introducing the county assembly fund. Looking at the sources of where this fund will come from, it is such monies as may be appropriated by the county assembly from the county revenue fund established for each county. And there is the second source, which is any grants, gifts, donation, or bequests. Honorable Speaker, if you may recall the structure and some of the amendments that we've been discussing in this House regarding donations and gifts and bequests taken to the counties, it now opens an avenue that a county can receive beyond the exchequer from the national government, and it can receive beyond, this fund can receive donations and gifts beyond what is being given or what is being earned from the own source revenue. And it has also given an avenue, Honorable Speaker, that in this fund, such monies as may be allocated from that purpose from investments, fees, or levies administered by the county. In other words, this fund has structured what is being earned, the own source revenue, which is being earned within the counties, as a fund that can then be utilized for purpose for which this fund is set. So, Honorable Speaker, I believe this amendment is a very big boost to devolution, but it calls for heavy responsibility on the county assemblies, because to whoever much is given, much will also be demanded. Because as we ensure that devolution is being supported from the grassroots, Honorable Speaker, it then means that the members of the county assembly must be in a position to safeguard those resources that are being devolved further to where the people are. The purpose of this fund ultimately is to deliver services to the people, Honorable Speaker. So I believe what you have done today, all the MCAs from all the wards in the Republic of Kenya and the county assemblies should celebrate tonight because of this bill, and especially when it is passed. And Mr. Speaker, because we know there are some counties where it has been very difficult for even county assemblies to discuss any impeachment of governors for misuse of resources or for misallocation of resources, Honorable Speaker, I believe once the county assemblies now have this fund, there is no more reason why we should be watching billions being carted away from counties. And instead of seeing development in the counties, we are seeing private entities being grown by individuals who are serving in public offices, Honorable Speaker. So I want to urge the county assemblies today, because they have been granted what they have been for, take this opportunity to ensure that the development we have lacked within the counties which have received billions, Honorable Speaker, and there is not even a single hospital, even for the people, Honorable Speaker. Counties have received billions. There is nothing done in agriculture.
Veronica, my good friend, you have a balance of 14 minutes next time the motion is allocated time. We were to adjourn at 5:30 and standing under that 7. And I now call upon Senator Henry Okech to move his motion pursuant to standing under that 7 to discuss a matter of national importance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah. And also note that you have 10 minutes.
Yes.
And any other senator speaking, 5 minutes, including the seconder.
The second.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is a very hard motion to move. It is a very hard one because matters femicide.
You first, just read the.
I'm gonna go. I'm
then
gonna
you
do
will
that.
give the state the issues that you have.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. As I said, this is a sensitive motion to move, and just as I said, that this is pursuant to Standing Order number 37, and that the Senate do now adjourn, as had requested, to discuss a definite matter of urgent national importance, namely the rising case of violent murder in the country, mainly targeting young women and girls. The most recent, Mr. Speaker, being the murder of 3 women in Isili on 28 2nd October, which is actually the time that they were discovered, but they disappeared on 21st October 2024. And that is Dahabo Dawood Said, Amina Abdi Rashid Dahir, and Nuseiba Abdi Mohammed. And a 23-year-old girl, Miss Seth Njeri Nyakio, in Thika, Kiambu County on 14th October 2024. Mr. Speaker, as I said, this is a very hard motion to move because it breaks my heart. Mr. Speaker, the young lady, to start with, Seth Nyakio Njeri, the 23-year-old young lady, Mr. Speaker, had just graduated from Zetech University, Mr. Speaker. And if you look at journalistic conversation and the news that we have been receiving, Mr. Speaker, is that she was also the daughter of Lucy Njeri, who is actually an MCA in Kirinyaga. Somebody that you would think that because of her position in the society, our own family would not experience such a brutal murder of our own daughter. And Mr. Speaker, before I even go further, let me just take this opportunity to pass my deepest condolences to the family of Lucy Njeri and to the family of Dahabo Dawood Said for this extreme pain and extreme stress and untold suffering that those families have gone through, the experience of such losses in our borders, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, as I say this, Mr. Speaker, it is even sadder to hear the story of Dahabo Dawood Said in Isili, Mr. Speaker. This is a wonderful woman and a lady who was killed alongside our own daughter and her niece. Mr. Speaker, when these stories are told, Mr. Speaker, it's very difficult to know the truth because of the laxity and the lack of proper intelligence shared with the public and even shared with families, Mr. Speaker. But I went to Isili, Mr. Speaker, the other day, just to try and understand really what happened. And Mr. Speaker, while this might not be, a confirmed story, but one of the conversations that I had was that this is a lady who went to a mall in the evening. The daughter and the niece were actually in the house. And then the story is told of how perhaps the daughter and the niece went to pick her from the mall, which in my own humble deduction could be that their killers might have lured them, having got the hold of the mother and then got hold of all of them. And Mr. Speaker, it's very sad because you hear that after they were killed, Mr. Speaker, their body parts were found in very different locations, Mr. Speaker. The body of Dahabo was found in Machakos, Mr. Speaker, picked from Isili, driven, or whichever means that was used, taken through the trauma of passing different places, Mr. Speaker, and found in Machakos, mutilated without a head. Mr. Speaker, the body of the daughter, I think, is then found in Bahati in Makadara, Mr. Speaker. Then the body of the niece, Mr. Speaker, is then found in 6th Avenue in Parklands, Mr. Speaker. The images of how far apart these bodies are found, having been lured all of them together, Mr. Speaker, begs the question of, do we really have a country? Do we really have a country when a whole family can be picked by murderers, killed in different locations, and their bodies mutilated and put in different locations, Mr. Speaker, the distance from Nairobi to Machakos, the distance from Isili to Makadara, the distance from Isili to Parklands, begs the question of what happened to surveillance in this country and what happens to policing and monitoring in this country that can be able to guarantee our people security, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, this is a bit of domestic violence that has escalated to the point that it is no longer just a domestic violence issue on women, but also porosity in terms of security that has now come to the point that we can see a country taking killing of women and killing of people as a pleasurable thing, Mr. Speaker, or Madam Speaker now. The killing of women in this country is becoming a pleasurable thing because we do not see equal response in terms of the rule of law on killers such as this. And my fear, Madam Speaker, is that if we allow this to continue, then we see it now extending to all genders, Madam Speaker. Recently in Siaya, Madam Speaker, a very well-established gentleman, Willis Ayeko, was found dead, killed in the same brutal manner that we see with the killing of women in this country. And the worst thing is that the security infrastructure ends only at giving simple journalistic updates on simple accounts and leaving it as a situation whereby we will be able to do further investigations so that these murders ends at conversations by authorities on a hope of further investigations to be done, Madam Speaker. I think, because of pressure of time, Madam Speaker, that this House must take the issue of this femicide very seriously. We did a serious resolution in this House on police abductions. We did a serious resolution in this House in the wake of Gen Zs on brutal murders that are going on by the police. I think this House must also do a serious motion and a resolution on actions that must be taken to be able to make sure that this country ends and puts an end to these brutal murders that we see in our country, Madam Speaker. It cannot be that we keep on being comfortable, and I don't know whether we are comfortable as a country because it doesn't reach our own homes. I'm imagining the pain and agony that families such as this end up having, Madam Speaker, because I think that this brings untold trauma and stigma to these families that they can never be able to recover from. Is it that the people who are in power today, starting from the presidency, coming to the security infrastructure, the IG of police, is it that these things look normal because they're not in their families? Madam Speaker, I want to beg this House that as a House of Senate that has shown very serious resolve on dealing with issues of national importance such as this, dealing with crises such as this, Madam Speaker, that we must come to the rescue of the nation and do a serious resolution of the House that can demand of our security infrastructure to put an end to this problem. Even if it means that we're going to put maximum surveillance in communities, Madam Speaker, I hope that the Senate can come to the rescue of these families. And therefore, I beg to move this motion, Madam Speaker, and would want to hear the insight of my colleague senators, and therefore request the wonderful Senator Hamida to second this motion. I thank you.
Thank you, Senator Eddy. Senator Hamida, you may take the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to thank, as I support, I want to echo Senator Eddy to echo Senator Eddie and also appreciate the motion that he has brought forward, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the recent wave of bizarre abductions is really gruesome, painful. May I proceed? It's really, the abductions, Madam Speaker, has really been gruesome murders and have really swept across the nation. It is really disturbing, and it's indeed a matter of urgency for us to discuss, Madam Speaker. In the past weeks, we learned about the horrific deaths, the same what Senator Eddie has said about the 3 women, Madam Waris Daoud and her daughter, Nasiba, and her cousin, her daughter Nasiba, yes, and her niece Amina. It has really we have really tried to console or to condole with the families. Madam Speaker, we have seen recent, and we keep on wondering why the women, why women and why will they go through that pain, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it's also an opportunity for me to condole and also I'm also grieving about my neighbor, Willis. Willis Onyango Ayeko is my neighbor, and his wife is my friend, Esther Ayeko. Madam Speaker, it's always painful going to their place every evening, looking at her and the grief that she's going through. Madam Speaker, I think Ayeko has made, he's always on social media, so you can imagine the trauma the kids go through every day. So I remember last night, Esther was really struggling for her kids not to come downstairs to watch TV. Imagine they were supposed to be together. Esther was supposed to be with her husband, and the husband had just gone for a burial that we all know one of our friends had lost the mother, Agina. And after leaving the Matanga place, so he had to travel. He was traveling. He was going to travel elsewhere. And there he was, So the next day, everyone knew that, he had already reached his destination. And the next day, they started calling and looking for Willis. Then later on, of course, we realized whatever happened. So the mutilated body, you can imagine, actually, it is, Madam Speaker, whenever, I discuss about Willis, it's so painful. He was such a humble neighbor and a good friend. And they mutilated the body in pieces, that it was so inhuman. These victims, seriously, Madam Speaker, like in recent months, have endured an unimaginable suffering, with the bodies bearing signs of the brutal torture, Madam Speaker. The trend is not just tragic, Madam Speaker, but then painful to the family, and also a reflection of an escalating crisis in our society, Madam Speaker. In October alone, over 20 murders have been realized, documented across the country, just in October. So I feel strongly that this number alone, it is a concern, but then with the sheer brutality, Madam Speaker, with which crimes are committed and no suspects have been, apprehended so far. So how are we expected to explain to our communities, to our families, and they look up to us, for that support and maybe protection? How are we going to explain to them, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, I must underscore that this alarming reality within right now in our society, the law enforcement agencies are falling short in providing safety and justice to our citizens, Madam Speaker. Moreover, the law enforcement agencies must work to rebuild with the committees they serve. And as I conclude, Madam Speaker, my time is up. Let's take a moment to acknowledge the pain and suffering of the families that have lost their lives, Madam Speaker. I was surprised when I asked the DCI the other day when you were at JLAC, what are you doing so far? And MCA they found a mutilated body after 1.5 months. And when I asked, Madam Speaker, about the MCA, they said, oh, until now they're not sure because they are unable to do the DNA. Imagine matching the body of the deceased. So how painful is that, Madam Speaker? This is an MCA. An MCA at least needed, to be protected, and that's a leader. So it's unfortunate that even the DCI, the DPP, and the rest cannot explain the murders that are going on, Madam Speaker. This one, we condemn the brutality, Madam Speaker. And this, the culprits have to be brought to book, Madam Speaker. It is, seriously, it is painful to all our communities. You can imagine the Willie story. It's all over news every day. And until now, we are just being told stories, and also the family cannot lay him to rest until the investigation is complete. So it's unfortunate, Madam Speaker, that the country is going through this. Seriously, where are we heading? To the dogs? I'm saying it with bitterness, Madam Speaker. 20 lives have been lost within 1 month, Madam Speaker, and nothing has come front. No explanation so far has come front for Kenyans to understand why this.
Thank you, Senator Hamida. Honorable Senators, I now propose the question that pursuant to Standing Order 37, the Senate do adjourn to discuss a definite matter of urgent national importance, namely the rising cases of violent murder in the country, mainly targeting young women and girls, the most recent being the murder of 3 young women in Isli on 22nd October 2024, Dahabo Daud Said, Amina Abdi Rashid Dahil, and Nasieba Abdi Muhammad, and a 23-year-old Ms. Seth Nyakeo in Thika, Kiambu County on 14th October 2024. The motion is now open for contribution by senators. I call upon Senator Keroche Tabitha, Nakuru County, to contribute.
Madam Speaker, sir, I thank you for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this motion.
Senator Tabitha, is it possible for Madam Speaker, sir, to be in the same sentence?
My apologies, Madam Speaker.
You have to choose one.
Madam Speaker, my apologies. So, Madam Speaker, Madam, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to contribute to this motion. And I want to thank Senator Eddy for bringing up this motion. I want to take this opportunity and condemn the adoption that is happening in this country, and the femicide murders that are happening in this country. It is sad that we have security in place, and we seem to be helpless. We look up like this, we are helpless when murders of our young girls is happening in this country. I want to take this opportunity and send my sincere condolence to all the families, parents that have lost their loved ones. I know how painful it is, and especially losing a young person whose future was very bright, because you can look at all these children, they were all in their universities, And you can look at them, they look very bright children. We really want to ask our security to save us from the tortures that the parents and the families are going through. Even the process of finding the justice for those children is a torture. So why would we as a country just sit there so helplessly and allow such crimes to happen in our own country when we have the capacity to arrest such heinous or such murders? So for me, is just, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, sir, is to urge our government, the one we elected with a lot of love, to ensure that they can look and see what is not happening in our security system, so that if we have the wrong people in the security system, to remove them. Because there is no way we can allow parents. We've seen them in the national television. We've seen the murders that is happening in this country. And I look at them, and I feel for them, and I wonder, even the process for them even to try and start looking for the justice for their children, how it tortures somebody. And what we can only pray for is to pray to God to give them strength so that they can be able to fight for their justices. Because even in the courts, trying to go to the courts to look for the justices, that is what I know. It is the most tedious process that a parent can go through or a family member can be taken to. So ours is only, how can it be prevented? I don't think there is much that we as senators we can ask, is on how it can be prevented. We cannot sit down now here and watch when such murders is happening to our children, and we just continue allowing this. I think we as women, it will come a point now where we'll lay down our tools and say, now I think we need to stand for the rights for women, and especially our young women, who we know, when we see that the whatever we are looking at.
You'll have 1 minute. I know you've gone through a hard experience on this one.
Yes.
Just finish.
Yes, we know how hard it is for even a woman to rise to a certain, to a higher level. So when we see our young women being killed like this, it is like we are trying to cut we are trying to show that women cannot reach to a certain level. Because we are not seeing many other people, the side of the boys, we don't see them go. We're not saying that they should be dying, but we are not seeing them being killed like the way we are seeing the girls are being killed. It is frightening and it is shocking, and we are not stand again as women leaders and watch when this thing is happening. It is frightening, it is sad, and I can tell you for free, for sure, that those parents, what they are going through and what they are to go through to get rid of or even to forget what they have been tortured to, it will take a long time. And even it will damage the progress of those.
Thank you, Honorable Senator. Senator Montet Betty.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, allow me to first pass my condolences to the families of who lately have lost their loved ones Surely it's painful. What we hear, the stories we are getting, like what Senator Sifuna said today, that it was really very difficult to watch the bodies of those ladies who were murdered just very recently. That was Madam Wario, the daughter Amina, and the niece. I want to pass my condolences to the family. This must be a very difficult time. Recently, also, a nominated MC from Kirinyaga lost her daughter, Madam Njeri lost her daughter Seth, and also what is in the news lately, the murder of the Wells Fargo HR boss, Willis. I pass my condolences to the families. May their souls rest in peace. Madam Speaker, I think this is something which the whole nation has to tackle. I believe as much as these people are criminals, these are issues which maybe churches and mosques should be encouraged to talk about, so that Kenyans can also now try and have some sense and some respect for life. Because even the way the murders are being carried, it is so saddening, because it's where human beings have become animals, that they don't value life anymore. What we are seeing every day. In fact, I wonder how many other murders are not being highlighted in the news, because what we see is what comes to the news, but I'm sure there are many others which are happening, which are not highlighted, that maybe even the family members have never come to know that their loved ones have been murdered or they've been killed, because the kind of life we live in Nairobi, you find most of people live on their own and their families maybe are far away. So sometimes by the time you come to realize that your kin is missing, it could take time. So, Madam Speaker, this is an issue as the police should be told that they have to up the game. I think also the society should be something we should have a discussion as a society in this nation, because this thing is now getting out of hand. Every day, every week, what we hear, sometimes sometimes back, I heard a senator say that it's so disheartening to watch news, because anytime you are watching news on our local televisions, what you see is murders here and there, that a body was found, somebody has been murdered, somebody is missing, somebody has been abducted, and then by the time they are found, they are dead. So this is an issue of national importance, something which should be discussed in all sectors by all the arms of government. Let's come together. Let's see what is happening. Let's see what we can do to improve. Whether it is the police, let's discuss and see what can be done. If it is the justice arm, let us see whether these cases which come up of those people who are killing or the murderers when they are caught, these cases can really be hastened so that people can be deterred, or they know that if you are caught, you're going to be caught and very soon your time is going to be up. So, Madam Speaker, what I would say is it's a matter of national importance. I want to thank the senator who has brought up this matter. And I want to urge that let us not stop it here. Let us put it out there to the nation. Let it be a discussion that we all hold and see what we can do to avoid and also to prevent this killing. I know they're taking care of young girls and women because we are weaker. But, Madam Speaker, if people know that wherever you are, let's say like the Isili, the Isili murder, the way it was committed, if people know that there are CCTVs all over, that whatever you do, you'll be followed and it will be a matter of time before they catch up with you, then I'm sure these murders are going to reduce. Because what is happening is not interesting at all. It's sad for our nation, it's sad for us women, and it's very disheartening as a nation. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yes, thank you, Senator. Senator Abbas Sheikh Mohammed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I think I want to thank Senator Eddy for bringing this issue. because this is actually a matter, very weighty, that needs attention of everybody in this country. Honorable Speaker, of late, Kenya is experiencing a wave of murders and abductions and arbitrary arrests. It is now become difficult. Who is doing this kind of business? Is it the government, agents of the government of security? Is it the thugs? This country has been Kenyans have been very, very kind. You know, we are surrounded by many countries that have a lot of security issues. They have fallen governments all over. There are no proper government. And many people have found their way to Kenya. And they were able to access our identity cards, our passports, own properties. And nobody has even vetted these guys. We have all the criminals coming to this country. The money launderers coming to this country. Murderers coming to this country. Rapists coming to this country. Therefore, we're not even able to know who is safe today and tomorrow. We will not know who is the next person. Speaker, I want first and foremost again to condole all Kenyans who lost their loved ones, especially the family of Dawood and the kids, Dahabo and Dahabo Dawood and kids. Honorable Speaker, you know, last time when there was that demonstrations, many Kenyans lost their life. And up to date, they have not been accounted for. So many young men and women, Kenyans, who just wanted to demonstrate, lost their lives. They have not been accounted for. They have been, I don't know where they've been held or they're dead. I have lost one MCA, elected, the minority leader of OJ Assembly. Today, there is no communication. You have gone anywhere? Last time we rushed to OJ, we were told that the body that was found, and this is the man, that body was mutilated, my friend. You know, you kill somebody and then you start cutting into pieces. It doesn't make sense. Even the criminal has to be listened. The criminal has a right to be represented. The criminal has a right to be brought to court. But you kill somebody, even this lady, her body was mutilated. She was killed. The young girl was raped. And again, the limbs have been cut. So, what's happened? We don't even know what's happened in this country. Because the criminals are hiding. Because, you know, if we have arbitrary arrests of people, abductions, extrajudicial killing, then you don't know who is the criminal and who is the government representative or the agents. So I think it's high time Kenyans must stand up and wake up and say enough is enough now. We must be able to separate Kenyans from the criminals. We must live in peace. We must do our business without fear. We must be able to, vet. You see, the taxi driver, the guy who killed these ladies, Keradabo, was somebody close to them. He was known to these ladies. Criminal. And according to the story going around, he's been a criminal. He has killed many other people in the past. I don't know where he came from. That shows that guy might be, he was owning a temporary driving license. He could be owning an ID. He could be owning a passport. But he's a criminal that you are aiding to become a Kenyan citizen. So I think the high time that corruption has spoiled this country. So we need to move and say enough is enough. Madam Speaker, one other thing is, I think the social media should also be censored. The TikToks and the likes. Because this is why the criminals are learning from a lot of funny things. Because what is happening today is not normal. The murders and killings, raping. Again, every other day you see in the papers, somebody had been found, part of the body has been found. I think this has not been part of Kenya's life. And therefore, Honorable Madam Speaker, the loss of Dahabo Dawood and her daughter, Nasibo, and her niece, Amina Abdurrashid, and the rest of Kenyans who are missing is actually unacceptable. And I will request the respective, this country has actually the most learned and most intelligent security officers. Kenyan security officers, our intelligence.
Time up, Senator Bass, Senator Sifuna Edwin Watenya, Senator Nairobi County.
Na asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwanza nianze kwa kusema kwamba sisi haswa wakazi wa Nairobi tunazidi kutamaushwa sana na matukio haya, kwa sababu ukiangalia vingi vya visa hivi vimetendeka katika kaunti ya Nairobi na vimewahusu wakazi wa Nairobi. Mheshimiwa Spika, huyu dada anaitwa Waris Daud pamoja na mwanaye anaitwa Amina na mpwa wake ambaye anaitwa Nuseiba, wote walikuwa ni wakazi wa Nairobi. Willy Sayeko na yeye pia alikuwa ni mkazi wa Nairobi. Seneta Hamida ametudhibitishia kwamba alikuwa ni jirani yake. Ni huyu Mumbua tu, yule dereva wa taksi ambaye alichukuliwa kutoka Mombasa na kuwawa katika eneo la ama mwili wake kupatikana katika eneo la Nakuru. Yule dada mdogo alikuwa anaitwa Nyakio, yeye naye amewawa katika maeneo ya Thika. Alafu Mheshimiwa Speaker, juzi tu kuna dada mmoja ambaye anaitwa Lilian Muhavi ambaye naye alipatikana amenyongwa na mwili wake kurushwa katika barabara ya Naivasha hapa jijini Nairobi, sehemu za Kawangware. Kuna dada mwingine ambaye anaitwa Vivian Kajaya na yeye pia ni mkaazi wa Nairobi, ile sehemu ya Kawangware. Mwili wake ulipatikana umetupwa kule Nakuru baada ya kuuawa. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Speaker, ninavyokuhesabia visa hivi kwa majuma machache ambayo yamepita, hawa ni wanadamu zaidi ya 8 ambao wamepatikana na ni wale ambao wameripotiwa katika vyombo vya habari. Hatujui wengine ambao labda kesi zao hazija angaziwa sana na vyombo vya habari. Lakini kinachoonyesha ni kwamba kuna magenge ama kuna genge la watu ambao wana huu uwezo wa kuweza kumchukua mtu kutoka kwenye barabara tu za Nairobi hapa, mji wa Nairobi, na kuweza kumtendea unyama ambao tumeona dada zetu hawa na ndugu zetu hawa wakitendewa. Hata huyu MCA wa Wajir ambaye anaitwa Yusuf Hussein Abdi, na yeye alichukuliwa katika barabara za Nairobi. Kwa hivyo sisi kama viongozi wa Nairobi, tutazidi kusisitiza kwamba asasi zetu za usalama lazima ziwajibike ili kutoa majibu kwa familia hizi na pia kwa wakazi wote wa Nairobi kwamba kuna usalama wa kutosha ili kuweza kuhakikisha kwamba watu wanaishi kwa amani. Mheshimiwa Speaker, unajua tulipozungumzia swala hili mapema leo adhuhuri, kuna wale dada zetu ambao walikuwa wanatoa pingamizi ya kwamba labda tunasema si swala la kina mama pekee kuuawa. Kusema kweli, unapoangalia takwimu hizi zinaonyesha kwamba wengi wa wale ambao wameathiriwa na hivi visa ni kina mama, hatukatai. Lakini mimi ninavyoamini ni kwamba hakuna aliye salama hadi sisi sote tuwe salama. Na ndio kwa maana wakati ambapo nimepata fursa ya kuketi na huyu Inspector General mpya wa polisi Douglas Kanja, wengine wakaniuliza mbona sikuwa nakaa na Koome. Mimi mnajua uhusiano wangu na aliyekuwa Inspector General wa polisi Koome. Koome alikuwa ananiandama kama mnyama. Mimi pamoja na kiongozi wa walio wachache hapa, Mheshimiwa Stuart Mazayo, tumeona kifo na macho yetu sisi wenyewe chini ya mkono ya Koome. Haingewezekana mimi kufika kwenye afisi ya Koome, na nafurahi kwamba Koome alituondokea. Huyu ndugu yetu Douglas Kanja na yeye tunaomba kwamba awe tofauti na Koome, kwa sababu serikali hii iliahidi kwamba chini ya uongozi wa Daktari William Ruto haya matukio yatakuwa matukio ya pale nyuma. Tulikuweko kule Vihiga na Mheshimiwa Sotsi, ule mpaka wa Vihiga na Siaya. Inawezekanaje kwamba wakati huu wote tunajua kwamba watu wanauawa na mili yao kupatikana katika mpaka wa Siaya na Vihiga? Hakuna hata uwezekano kwamba tuweke patrol za polisi katika mpaka huo, kwamba kila wakati mili inapatikana katika mto ulioko kwenye mpaka huo, kila siku tunapata mili katika huo mto. Itawezekanaje kwamba jeshi la polisi haliwezi kuchukua hatua kwamba maeneo ambayo inajulikana wazi kama Matimbo na maeneo mengine ambayo mili ni kawaida kupatikana, kwa nini kusiwe na ile surveillance ya kutosha kuhakikisha kwamba mambo haya hayaendelei? Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Speaker, mimi nitazidi kuongeza sauti yangu kwa ajili ya haki kupatikana kwa hizi familia, kwa sababu nilivyosema hapa mchana Mheshimiwa, nilipokwenda kule katika makafani ya City, ile mili hali yao ungeona mwenyewe Mheshimiwa Speaker, mwili wa dhahabu na mwanawe ulikuwa katika hali mbaya sana, kwa maanisha kwamba walipitia kifo ambacho kilikuwa ni kifo cha uchungu sana. Hata zile ripoti ambazo tumepata kuhusu mwili ulivyo ule wa ndugu wetu Willis, unamaanisha kwamba alipitia mambo magumu sana kabla ya yeye kuaga dunia. Na swala ambalo tunajiuliza ni kwamba kwa sababu operesheni kama hiyo inachukua muda sana, inawezekanaje kwamba umweke mtu mahali kwa wakati huo wote, unamkata mtu kama kuku ama kama kumchinja?
We give him 1 minute. To finish the sentence.
yote hata chifu ama watu wa nyumba kumi, hata ile local security arrangements ambao wanaweza kupata kujua kwamba kuna tukio fulani linatendeka. Hata hapa Nairobi, Mheshimiwa Speaker, nikasema tulikuwa na wakati ambapo tulizundua mfumo wa CCTV, zile kamera za kunasa matukio katika jiji letu. Nikamuuliza huyu Douglas Kanja, akaniambia ni 60% pekee ya jiji la Nairobi ambalo lina hizi kamera za CCTV. Kwa nini isiwe 100%? Kwa sababu tuliambiwa kwamba mfumo huo wa CCTV ulikuwa umeimarishwa hapa jijini. Kwa hivyo mimi nataka nimalize kwa kutoa pole zangu kwa familia hizi zote ambazo zimeathirika, na kwamba kuahidi na kutoa hapa ahadi kwamba for as long as tuna sauti sisi kama viongozi, tutazidi kutumia sauti zetu kuhakikisha kwamba haki inatendeka na wale ambao wamehusika wanaletwa mbele ya sheria. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Senator. Senator Cherari K, Senator for Nandi County. I do
Thank
not
you.
want to say you have heard the cry of your colleagues. Can reduce by 1 minute.
I didn't hear their cry. I rarely listen to such cries. Madam Speaker, let me just make 4 points, but I'll be sensitive. So, Speaker, let me just make 4 points. One is that femicide, I've just looked up at the definition. It means somebody being killed on the account of their gender, especially by man. That's what defined. Madam Speaker, secondly, it's sad that from 2016 up to date, more than 500 women have been killed through femicide. In fact, this year alone, Madam Speaker, 34 cases of femicide have been reported up to yesterday. Only in January this year, Madam Speaker, 10 women were killed. And most of these victims, Madam Speaker, are women in their 20s and 30s. I was discussing with another psychologist, was telling me because of societal pressures, some of these young women are in abusive relationship. Something like intimate partner violence, IPV, which is common among people in relationship, people who are in marriage, Madam Speaker, that is spousal, where it is bordering to gender-based violence, Madam Speaker. So this issue of femicide is a serious issue. It is happening even in relationship in campuses, and it is sad that women of 20 to 30 years are the biggest victims, who should be their productive, essentially, Madam Speaker. So this IPV, intimate partner violence, is a serious issue that defines the femicide in this country, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in 2023 alone, there were 152 killings against women, and these victims where it's gender-based, Madam Speaker. And I think I want to ask the DCI, Mr. Amin, you know, when an issue becomes an issue of national concern, they should form a special unit to address the issue of femicide cases, as the President declares it a national disaster. I want to join many colleagues who have said this should be a national disaster. Let the DCI form a special unit that can handle femicide. Madam Speaker, when you walk to most of the police stations, there are no even gender reporting desks, a few, only in county headquarters. We want them as lowest as divisional police headquarters so that such issues can be reported, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, and the stigma that comes with it, the society also must be on lookout and ask young girls and women not to be comfortable in the relationship with the men they don't trust. I know trust is one of the expensive currency in relationship. To ask them to be careful, to weigh, Madam Speaker, so that they are not, because of societal pressures. We have heard Senator Abbas talking about it, Madam Speaker, that most of these things are happening online dating apps, Madam Speaker, where young women go on those online, Madam Speaker. They have a right to associate whoever they want to, but at least they need to be just careful. I remember the former President Uhuru Kenyatta used to say security starts with you. So we want also, as we call the police, because we cannot get the police to police everybody, Madam Speaker. But I think also as a society we need to be very careful and ask young men and women to avoid toxic relationships that might lead to IPVs and femicide, Madam Speaker. Finally, Madam Speaker, I want also to speak on behalf. We have lost so many athletes, Madam Speaker. We lost Agnes Tirop from my village through gender-based violence that she was killed in Iten. The investigation is still ongoing. We want to ask the judiciary to speed up such cases. We have lost, the most recent was Ugandan athlete by the name Rebecca Cheptegei, who is the marathoner, Madam Speaker, very tragic. She was buried the other day. We did lose Damaris Mutua also, Madam Speaker, and we just lost Samson Kandie, one of the famous marathoners. And one of the suspects, Madam Speaker, coincidentally is the wife. So, Madam Speaker, while women are being affected by this issue, men, so even in athletes and sports world, Madam Speaker, we are losing so many female athletes. And most of the perpetrators are partners, are husbands, are boyfriends, are people close to them. I think as a society, I want to call upon religious organizations, the Muslim, the Christian, the Hindu. I'm told the Hindu one and only day, Madam Speaker. Let them be at the forefront to fight this vice going into the future, Madam Speaker. So I want to thank Senator Eddy. I've heard him talking about extrajudicial killing and forced disappearance and abductions. That's a very serious concern. I hope the House, when I want to inform Eddy, Madam Speaker, in closing, when I was once the powerful chairperson of Justice, Legal Affairs and Human Rights, we investigated such instances, and the report is available for your perusal. I support this motion, and I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Madzayo Stewart Mwachidu, Kilifi County Senator.
Asante, Bispika. Bispika. Asante Bispika. Bispika, kitu cha kwanza nataka kutoa rambirambi zangu vile vile kwa familia, jamii na marafiki wote wa hizi familia ambazo zimepatikana na kuathirika kwa wapendwa wao, kuuawa, hali ya kinyama, hali ya sintofahamu. Bispika, cha kwanza ni kwamba pia vile vile nataka kumpatia heko ndugu yangu Eddy. Huyu mdogo wangu Eddy ameweza kuleta taarifa hii ambayo imeleta msisimko mpya ndani ya hili bunge la Senate, kuona kwamba Wakenya wanaweza kuuawa kiholela holela bila sheria ama bila kwa njia ile ambayo sio kuuawa kwa njia, lakini bila hatua yoyote kuchukuliwa na polisi. Bispika, tunaona ya kwamba kitu cha kwanza ambacho nilikuwa nataka kuweza kukitafakari vizuri ni kwamba hususan kuua watoto wadogo, tena watoto wa kike, watu ambao hawawezi hata kupigana ama kujiregeshea ngumi ama kusukuma mtu. Wewe unaenda unapata watoto wa kike wameketi mahali ama wameketi kwa nyumbani ama wako barabarani, alafu mnawashika kwa nguvu, mnawaingiza ndani ya gari ama mnawadanganya, mnaenda nao mahali fulani, alafu hapo panapatikana na vifo. Bispika, ni jambo la uchungu kuona kwamba watoto ambao hawawezi hata kujitetea wanapatikana katika hali hiyo. Na zaidi kitu cha kukemewa zaidi, Bispika, ni kwamba watoto hawa wanapatikana sehemu zao za nyeti haziko, macho hayako, matiti hayako. Bispika, ni hali ya kinyama namna gani kwamba Mkenya, hata kama wewe ni jangili ama kama wewe ni muuaji namna gani, unaweza kukata mama ambaye hawezi kujisaidia, unamkata matiti, unamkata sehemu zake za nyeti. Wewe ni binadamu wa namna gani? Bispika, tunasema kitendo kama hichi ni cha kukemewa na Wakenya wote. Na kitu cha kushangaza ni kwamba sisi tuna watu ambao wanapelekwa skuli kiganjo, wamesomea, ni mapolisi, wanalinda amani, wanalinda haki za watu, na wanalinda pia mali na uhai pia. Katika katiba inasema kwamba uhai wa kila Mkenya utakuwa, serikali itaangalia uhai huo. Hawa mapolisi nataka kuuliza, wako wapi? Tunawaona sasa ile wakitaka kumpiga mimi tear gas na Edwin Sifuna. Tunaona sasa ile wakianza kutuonyesha sehemu zetu za siri kwa magazeti. Hawana maana, ashindwe kabisa. Bispika, ni jambo la kusikitisha na si jambo la kucheka. Ukiona kama mtu kama Willis alikuwa anafanya Wells Fargo, amefanya ndio Sifuna anasema amebeba, sikuona mimi, lakini nasema tu ya kwamba ni jambo la kusikitisha hivi leo, ikiwa mtu mzima kama yule aliyekuwa hana ubaya na mtu anaweza kupoteza maisha yake kiholela namna ile, na alafu anatolewa macho. Surely hata kama ni uhalifu, lakini sio kufika huko. Kitu cha mwisho ambayo nataka kusema ni kwamba huyu jenerali ambaye tumemchagua hivi sasa, Jenerali Kanja, nataka kumwambia aamke kutoka kwa huo usingizi. na aamrishe askari wake na wafike kila mahali, na hata vitengo vingine pia vya uchunguzi, vitengo vya kufanya kuona kama ujasusi utatendeka mahali fulani, wao wanafika mara moja na kueleza watu kwamba kuna kitu kama hiki kitatendeka, na alafu hatua itachukuliwa. Speaker, tunakemea sana. Nataka kusema kwamba hatua kali lazima ichukuliwe, na taarifa hii iliyoletwa na huyu ndugu yangu Eddie tuichukulie hatua ya juu sana. Asante Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Senator. Senator Olekina Ledama, Narok County Senator.
Madam Speaker, in the 21st century, it's sad that we're discussing about femicide. This is a time when we should be talking about equality, not even a matter of equity, because women in our society contributes and they play a critical role in the development of our culture, the development of our society. But it is sad, and this is a matter that we cannot take lightly. Madam Speaker, let me begin by thanking the distinguished senator from Migori for causing this House to go on to adjourn to be able to discuss this matter of critical national concern. It is sad when we turn on our television stations and when we are watching news, you are being told that a young girl was kidnapped, a young girl was killed, a mother and two of her daughters were killed, bodies were spread across 2 counties. It begs the question of whether we really have a criminal justice system in this country. Mr. Speaker, when you talk about the issues of femicides, others might argue that is a systemic gender-based discrimination, that it is in the system, systemic. You know, that is, some people consider it, you know, sort of like heroic to be able to discriminate or to be able to hurt women. It is barbaric, to say the least. There's nothing heroic in you who you know that you cannot control your destiny, to be able to turn your guns and you kill someone who cannot be able to defend themselves. Madam Speaker, this House must stand very firm for the lives of those young girls who were killed, the young Somali women who were killed in Nairobi County, for the young girl who was killed who was a taxi driver, who was killed in Mombasa County, and even for the young girl who was killed in Kiambu County, and various other areas. It is wrong, Madam Speaker, and we must say it as it is, that it is wrong and it is barbaric. And we have to ask ourselves whether, as a country, we have laws to be able to protect our young women, who in most cases cannot speak for themselves. We are elected, we are here not because of a right. It's a, we are given an opportunity to be able to come and represent our people. We pass laws, so the first question to ask is this: does this country called Kenya have laws to be able to protect women? And today, Madam Speaker, when I stand here, I want to argue that this issue of femicide, of dealing with the issue of femicide, is a multi-agency approach. We find NGOs talking about protection of women. We find government institutions talking about protection of women, of our girls. I'm a father of girls. God has blessed me with 2 beautiful girls, and maybe more to come. I want to be able to know that as long as God gives me an opportunity to breathe this free air, that I will be able to be counted as one of those people who have protected their daughters. So as I stand here, it is important for me to analyze and to be able to critique our criminal justice system, to be able to critique our legislative journey, to see whether it is Parliament or is it the executive which is failing. And the only thing that I can say is that we've got laws to protect our women. We've got laws to protect our young women from domestic violence. The challenge, Madam Speaker, is implementation is wanting. You know, sometimes because of our cultural norms, it is easy to say it's okay let's just deal with it. But I think it's about time that now we put our priorities right. We must ensure that our criminal justice system, our law and order, protect these young girls. And the only way that Kenyans can be convinced that, yes, indeed, we are determined, not only as a house that makes laws, but also as the executive that implement those laws, is by making sure that those people who killed these young girls, are arrested, and justice must be given to those families. Madam Speaker, I hear, and I hope that you'll give me some more time, because I'm the last speaker and we end at 6:30. I've listened to my colleague, Senator Sifuna, and Senator Sifuna has alluded to the fact that we spend billions of shillings to be able to secure our urban centers. We've got CCTV cameras all over. Madam Speaker, we know that Nairobi County was not able to deliver that function. So under Article 187 of the Constitution, they had a collaboration with the national government. And there was a creation of something called NMS. And there was a command center. It is time for us to follow up and say, that command center, what is it for? Or is it one of those incidences where a command center comes, people come in there, put CCTV all over, create a command center, and you don't pay them bills, so they end up sabotaging it? Because if that command center is there, then by all means, we should be able to, the IG should be able to sit there and arrest or follow those people who killed these young girls, and they are running amok across 2 counties, Machakos and Nairobi, dispersing different parts of the bodies. So we need to ask those questions. This is so painful, Madam Speaker, that we must push forward. And I thank Senator Eddy for causing this house. And I hope that our distinguished members of this house, all of them would have been here because of the weight of this matter. But I want Kenyans to know out there that we will not relent until we get to the bottom of this issue. We need to make sure that our girls are protected. Madam Speaker, one of my biggest pet peeves is that some people think that they'll breathe this air for centuries and centuries and generations. We're just a passing cloud. Our time will come and will go. We cannot sit here. I will not sit here knowing that I'm a father of 2 beautiful young girls, and when other women and young girls are being kidnapped out there and being attacked, I cannot speak for them. Who will speak for them, Madam Speaker? So there are 3 things, Madam Speaker, that I want to summarize my argument on.
I'll give you 2 minutes.
Madam Speaker, thank you for the 2 minutes. One, I want to reiterate that this is a multifaceted issue that requires a concerted effort from the government, civil society, and communities to address it. Let's talk about, Nyumba Kumi. Let's talk about our implementing arm of the government, our criminal justice system. The IG, I have a lot of confidence in the IG. I want to request you to be able to take this matter seriously. Those 3 young girls or women who were killed in Isili, we need justice for them, Madam Speaker. That young girl, the taxi driver who was killed in Mombasa, we need justice for them. And going forward, we want you to call a press conference and tell us these are the measures that you put in place to protect the girl child, to protect women in our society. There's no way we're going to go without women in our society, Madam Speaker. You are who you are, Madam Speaker, because somebody protected you. Somebody cared for you. If we do not care about our young girls, then if no human being can judge us, Almighty God will judge us and say, you're worthless, you're useless. Even Satan will not want our bodies to burn in hell. I'm being very honest, Madam Speaker, because if you cannot protect your young girl, a vulnerable person in society, then who are you? I really want to encourage my colleagues that next time when we're talking about this, all of you must be seated down here to be able to address those challenges. But look at it. Seriously, look at this house. Very few people are here. Is it that only Senator Sifuna, Senator Hamida, Senator Edi, you know, the senator from Wajir? I also had one other senator, alikuwa nani? Gerald Gay. Is it the senator from Turkana? Is it my dear sister, Senator Mundet, who only cares about women here? All of us, it behooves us to be able to protect our girls. You know, so Madam Speaker, let me not proceed further because this is very emotional. It's an emotive issue. But I hope that the IG will take it very seriously and make sure that we protect our girls. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Senator. It truly is an emotive issue to be taken very seriously by everybody, including Nyumba Kumi. Honorable Senators, it's now 6:32, and having concluded the business for which I extended the hours of sitting pursuant to Standing Order 34-2A, the Senate stands adjourned until tomorrow, Thursday, 31st October 2024 at 2:30 p.m. Thank you.